Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this LinkedIn Live session brought to you by Simbian. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Today we're going to talk about AI SOC and building the team in the AI SOC, hiring or firing. What is the next step for AI augmented SOC teams? A lot of discussion of this at RSA back in March. More and more discussion about this with the recent announcements of Mythos and other new models coming out. I'll kind of lead in this question of, do I still need to have a SOC team? How big is the SOC team? What do they do? What don't they do? What does that new world look like? Those are some of the questions that we're going to talk through in today's session here over the next kind of 30 minutes or so. I've got with me Patrick Painter. Patrick is one of our solution architects here at Symbian. He spends his whole time working on the ground with real customers, real enterprises, MSSPs, as they build out their SOCs. So, Patrick, glad you could join the conversation. Looking forward to hearing that kind of real world perspective on things. My name is David Green. I'm in our market development group here, and so I'm also working with many of those same customers on their large projects. And so we're going to talk a little bit about, does AI and do LLMs mean I can stop hiring stock analysts? How are those roles going to change? Can I just use the LLMs by themselves? What are some things I need to do to get good results from AI? And how do I make sure that AI is playing kind of within the lines here within my operations? Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Symbian, as you join us here, Symbian is a company focusing on building self-improving security operations. Our view is that in order to win in this new era of AI-armed attacks, an enterprise has to be able to respond at AI speed in a unified way using the power of the information about their unique environment. The only way to fight AI is with AI, although that has some limitations, as we'll talk about here in a minute. We've built a platform of agents that using AI, perform different functions typically done within the security operations team for the SOC, threat hunting, pen testing, and are fortunate to work with some of the world's largest companies and service providers in doing that. I'm not going to talk about us today, but that's just who we are and the perspective we're going to bring here to the conversation. So, Patrick, I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see you. Thanks for joining us here today. Um, now, Patrick, let's start with the title question. If you were managing a SOC today, and from the customers that you see and work with every day, over the next 6 months, are you hiring people? Are you firing people? Kind of what's the staffing strategy?
Yeah, so if you're starting your journey with AI SOC, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to start firing people right off the bat. And there are a couple of reasons for that. While it does introduce a lot of really cool options and opportunities for automation, if you think about the ultimate decisions or outcomes you're looking to get, you need a lot of that internal knowledge from that team to get to those decisions. So you're bringing in an incredible amount of cybersecurity knowledge with AI, which is great to have. But if you think about, when you're looking at alerts and deciding if something is, true positive or false positive, or if something is meaningful, it's especially your tier one analysts, those guys that are in those alerts, day after day, really knowing, having an intimate understanding of the environment, of the people in the business and business operations. They're the ones that are able to make a lot of those decisions to understand if this is it's a false positive. I've seen this before. This is normal activity in our business versus something that does need to be escalated. So again, if you start off the bat trying to fire people, well, you're losing that key knowledge that's really going to help the AI be accurate in your decisions. And the second thing I would say is, even if you get to a point where you're automating a lot of the activity that you're working on today, let's say you were able to take away half the work from your team, from day one. Most, if not all, cybersecurity teams, they're not in a place where they're happy where they are. They have the great coverage. They have, you know, things automated. They're able to, they're happy with their risk profile. So again, AI gives you an opportunity to scale across security operations. So even if you're able to automate the things you're doing today, there's always new work over the horizon.
Yeah, it's interesting, Patty. I think that you summarized there what we've seen at some of the big customers, right? Not firing, less hiring, I guess would be the summary statement, right, in this, right? Um, and some of that, I think, so the not firing for all the reasons you said, you need that context information, less hiring because AI does give you scale and capacity. And I think one thing to keep in mind in all of this is the context we're walking into, which is I think every SOC team I've met is currently behind and to some extent overwhelmed. Industry research would suggest that a typical team misses, just has to ignore at least 40% of their alerts that are coming in every day. Um, no team has gotten past about 30% automation of that response. Um, the volume of alerts keeps going up by so I mean just the basic numbers are is I already have a capacity gap in my SOC
Mhm.
team. And where AI is going to help is to fill that gap. But I think it's also more than just filling the gap. It's also about kind of providing more complete documentation of the actions of the SOC team. AI is really good at documentation. Um, it's also about shortening response time. One of our customers who did a side-by-side comparison of human analysts and and AI in the SOC found that their human analysts took an average of 154 minutes in order to
Mhm.
respond to an alert, to resolve an alert that came in. When they brought AI in, they were able to do that in about 12 minutes. So that kind of order of magnitude change is possible with AI, but the people are still there kind of for all those reasons you said. Um, but Patrick, the role of those people is going to change. And so, and you commented on that a minute ago about kind of L1. Maybe you talk about what do the roles look like in the SOC going forward when we've got AI in place?
Yeah, so again, if you starting at L1, a lot of what their typical activity is following procedures, looking at data and logs from different tools, and it's more of a checkbox or verification process to understand if something needs to be escalated. And that is some of the work that AI is very good at, following a procedure, being able to look at large amounts of data very quickly and verify if or if not something has happened. So it's true that a lot of that L1 type of work will be able to be automated. But again, that's when you get into where your L1 analyst can provide information, and that is around that context. So while that L1 analyst is not necessarily doing the one, running queries and searching through the logs, what they are able to do is provide again that next step for the AI with again what we call your tribal knowledge about the organization. So their role becomes much less hands on in those tools and more how they're able to provide that information about the business to an to an AI analysis for an alert. So again, pointing out where that what looks normal for what looks normal for the business or what looks abnormal. So they become more managers of what context should go that into the AI that's not necessarily cybersecurity related. So again, you think about they're the experts in more the experts in the goings on of the business, and that's really important information for that AI. And so they should be kind of managing what context or what feedback goes into a lot of those alerts.
Hey, Patrick, interesting on the L1s you're talking about there, right? I mean, I think we should acknowledge in this that the normal L1 role is kind of a grind,
It
right?
is.
I was talking to one of our customer we both know well, the security operations director at one of those customers, whose comment was, L1 role is kind of a grind. We take our least senior people and throw them in those roles, right?
Mhm.
And but arguably that's the most important step, right? If you get the triage step wrong, everything else breaks,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
we have junior, inexperienced, overloaded people in this really critical role, where to your point, AI can actually do that pretty well. And so this was an example where the demise of a human L1 analyst is probably a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, and I think, it should excite, it should excite the L1 analyst and it should excite the managers and the CISOs about automating that mundane activity. And again, I've talked to hundreds of CISOs over the years, and I've never come across one that is really looking to fire their team. They want to help their team. They want to help them advance. They want to help their good people get out of the boring stuff, and that's where, because they worry they're going to lose them if they keep throwing again the mundane activity at them. So again, the AI and a lot of the automation of that mundane activity, that really gives a manager an opportunity to get their good people into the more interesting aspects of cybersecurity. So that's, I think, something, again, exciting for each of the team members.
So yeah, so what is it? So Patty, then what does L2 look like, and what does L3 look like in this world?
Yeah, so when you get into the L2, again, that's more the deeper investigations. And so again, L2 analyst, now you're looking at how are you guiding the AI through, again, your processes and information, and how to run that investigation. And so what that looks like is, again, your particular tools, and again, that process of what is important in the environment that needs to be dug into. So, and we're realizing what looks notable, that's going to escalate that alert, where that alert occurs in the environment, and then the criticality of that alert. So once it gets past that L1 into L2, then you're looking at, again, the quality of the investigation, and then understanding the severity of that investigation. So with that higher level cybersecurity knowledge, then again you're working, again, sometimes in that context, like, to point out those important artifacts in the alert, and determining the severity. And so you go a little further into the context, like, so when it presents information, it's highlighting those key areas.
Well, I think, both L2 and L3 today spend the majority of their time just on investigation,
Mhm.
right? And I think what we have the opportunity to do in an AI augmented SOC model is that much of that investigation work has already been done for you. I think one of our customers said roughly, he estimates that 80% of the investigation is finished before his L3 folks have to engage, which again is what's giving us capacity, right? We're not going to fire people because we need their knowledge, but we're not going to have to hire people because we're going to get more capacity out of those people because we do things like get rid of the time they spend on investigations right now, where so much of their time and energy is going. Yeah. Would you agree with that? Is that consistent?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, with that information, it gives an L3 person. Again, if it gets to an L3 resource, again, time is of the essence. There's probably evidence of malicious activity, and so that's when you're really racing against the clock. And to have that level of information, to the L3 analyst that quickly, again, you're going to be able to significantly reduce the impact of a potential threat, and then they're going to also be able to do that again across more alerts. So again, most of what we're doing here is trying to reduce that risk. And when you can quickly assess if something does need to be escalated, its severity, where that potential impact is, and already have that information, that's going to enable that L3 analyst to act as quick as possible to, again, reduce the risk of any particular malicious activity.
Right. Well, then you were starting to talk there too, Patrick, about the new roles, right? Kind of the changing role. I know uh, Simbian as a company, we've done some writing around this idea of a context analyst, as being kind of one of the places that kind of people who have been in L1 or L2 roles, a new role they might end up in, kind of what's a context analyst?
Yeah, so context analyst, if you think about again, rather than the L1 analyst looking at the again day-to-day data and the logs and sifting through that information, again, you think about them as almost kind of taking a step back, so where they can see a little more of that picture. So for each alert, again, if something is a false positive, for example, you want to identify why that's a false positive. You want to provide that feedback. So you can do that on an individual alert basis, which will help for again, I think that same type of alert and same and which we may say observable. So you can automate that on an alert basis, but as a context analyst, you want to start thinking about how do you expand this one alert to the next alerts coming in. So a
Yeah.
context analyst is going to again look at to why something is a false, why something is a false positive, and then try to link other aspects of that alert that's going to reflect in the next alert. So it's not just that David took this action, which is normal for David. It's understanding that well, David is this part of this team, and then this team typically takes these actions, or they're at this location. So you start to take again the instance of one alert, broaden that across the environment. So again, the next alerts that come in, the context like an AI is able to apply that to a broader set. And so a context analyst is continuously adjusting that context to be more effective in the environment, applied to more alerts, and of course making updates to the context. Environments are continuously changing, so you want to keep that context fresh and account for any again new types of tools, new environments. And companies are always adding new projects or acquisitions, and so that does need to be constantly curated to have the most up-to-date information.
Well, that's a great comment, right? Because AI can do a lot of things, but AI doesn't necessarily know how your environment changed, and AI doesn't have visibility, particularly public models, right? And by the way, for everybody listening today, we'll put a link in the comments, but we published our book at RSA, Security for Winners here. Hopefully you can see that. And we'll put a link in the comments because in this book is actually a couple articles by different authors talking about this new context analyst role, Patrick, you were just talking about, and kind of different perspectives on what that looks like. One comment I know I've heard in some of these is part of the new role of the SOC analyst around context, or around kind of orchestrating the role of AI in the environment. It does require a little bit different skill set, and that does have a higher emphasis on engineering skills than we might have had
Mhm.
traditionally in the SOC analysis. Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah. So again, the engineering is important, and particularly when you're thinking about the strategy for your AI. Uh, Being able to again coordinate these multiple again context analysts, then even something coordinating the agents across your AI. So being able to take that security information and determine its effectiveness across the environment. So as your again AI is making decisions, categorizing alerts, again you need some more around the engineering who can look at that strategy and determine, how accurate is our AI being, and where do we need to make improvements in the accuracy. So, get really tracking the metrics around the SOC agent, similar to how you would in, your SOC analyst who's being effective, which security agents are being effective, which areas, which types of alerts are. Are being triaged most effectively, or where does additional work need to be made in the security alerts.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Well, so actually, I want to go back from it then to as we've talked a lot there about guiding AI, guiding the agents, making them work well together, right? One of the reasons we put the original question on the table here, hiring or firing, is because there has been so much discussion over the last few weeks about the power of the new LLMs, the power of the new AI models to do this work. And billions of dollars of software company valuations have gone away on the belief that we won't need people or software to do this. AI will just take care of it all. And so actually, I want to do a quick aside here and share with everybody, in case you missed it, the results the results of some research that Simbian published a couple weeks ago that looked specifically at the power of AI in order to defend. And I think the reality is that offensive security and defensive security are fundamentally different. And so when we talk about kind of the new threats that AI poses against the enterprise as a mechanism for attack, it's because I can quickly automate attacks at kind of nation state level accuracy against any organization. All of us can be targets of that. But an attack is very bounded. It has very clear objectives. It has clear targets. It has clear feedback on whether or not it's been successful. Defense doesn't have that. Defense involves watching for many signals amongst much noise and trying to figure out what happens there. And so Symbian did a test with 11 LLMs against 105 kind of different attack scenarios to see how effectively could the LLMs out of the box detect the different attack scenarios. And the result was not very well. That the average score across all of the LLMs tested, you see the list there on the right of the graphic, was 19%. Opus 4.6, Claude's Opus 4.6 was the strongest model. It had a high score of 63% on one of the minor tactics, but it averaged under 50%. And if your human SOC analysts were only spotting 50% of the attacks, you would get a new one. So that's kind of the current state of raw LLMs. With every model just missing whole categories here. And so again, in our context of hiring versus firing, you are going to need techniques and mechanisms and resources to bridge the gap between what the raw LLM does, and what you need to do for defense in your environment. One of those bridges is going to be your people and the knowledge that they have, as kind of we've been talking about here. Another key element of that bridge is, Patrick, something you've alluded to a couple of times in the session today, which is around context. So I know you spend a lot of time helping customers set up their context in their projects. Elaborate a little more for us, and what is the role of context in kind of effective use of AI in security operations, and kind of what goes into context, how to manage that? Just let's elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so again, what goes into the context are those important areas. Again, really how your business operates, and using that to filter out a lot of the noise. So again, particularly those L2 and L3 level L2 and L3 sources can focus on what is looking to be malicious in the environment. So again, the context is being able to identify again those false positive alerts and broaden that out across different systems. So and it also works. That also works by giving the AI a set of or reasoning ability in the environment. For one example, we have a customer, and of course they have the geographically anomalous or impossible travel alerts. Very common type of alert that becomes very noisy. Every organization is probably going to see them, but they're all going to have different reasons as to why that's probably okay in most scenarios. So again, being able to help a customer design that context to reason through some of the different options or some of the different scenarios that they see. So identifying again, if the countries are typically normal that they see or out of or what would not be considered not normal, understanding, well, what is the origin of, again, an IP address that was seen? Is it a residential? Is it a VPN? That could be part of what they're using. And then almost a decision tree. If we see, two residential IP addresses, well, that shouldn't happen. So that should be that should be true positive, something that should be escalated. Maybe we see a residential and a VPN. Well, that's okay. That's probably a signal that they've signed onto their VPN, so that may be more of a false positive. And then also if other identifying factors that look malicious. So it's adding a number of different factors into the context that the AI is able to kind of reason through and take those steps through multiple scenarios. Where again, typically that was a very manual process, one person having to go through all of these checks. Well, now we've taken again a high number of alerts that an organization sees in their environment and been able to automate again a lot of those away, and so they can be focused on the more important ones.
Well, and a lot of that part of that context too, I think, that is the feedback right from those human analysts. We start with context as a picture of the environment, but context also should be the human analyst looking at the work of AI and saying, "You were right, you were wrong," and
Right.
then that gets fed back into the system as well. Because I think we want to try and build this self-improving feedback loop in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that, like I mentioned, there could be multiple scenarios when you see again something like a geographically anomalous login. And so again, with each new alert, again, you may discover something, a new type of scenario where it actually is again part of normal. Maybe you don't see it as often, and so but that becomes part of that feedback loop of understanding the environment and having again those new context analysts evaluating and the results of an AI decision. How do you make that more effective for the next alerts that are going to come in, whether it be closing out a false positive or identifying something more notable in that alert and determining, hey, this needs to be escalated to a higher level.
Yeah, and I think for Symbian, so we talk about that as this idea of part of the concept here is human in control, right? That you until AI really learns your environment, you want to have oversight to make sure it's making the right decisions and making the right judgments. We distinguish human in control from human in the loop. Human in the loop says that every decision by AI must get signed off by a human being. That's going to introduce a bottleneck in the system that's going to kind of fight the whole objective we have of getting a faster response, right? But you do want to set some guardrails around and say, hey, in these situations, we want a human to have a second opinion before we take action, before we go forward. In these other situations, we're going to let the system take action on its own. Again, human in control is part of the model here. Context is how we do that. Feedback is how we reinforce that. Self-improvement is how it gets better over time. Um, but we're coming up to the end of our time here. So if I'm running a SOC team, you told me
Mhm.
at the beginning I can't fire anybody. Um, but I'm going to need some tools in all of this, right? So well, my boss though just read the article that said LM's going to do everything. I can get rid of everybody. We don't need anything anymore. So what's the business case I'm going to make here for bringing AI into my security operations, for keeping my team, for how am I going to explain that in business terms for the boss?
Yeah, so again, if you want to explain in the business terms, you're probably getting to how you quantify your program and what it can do around things like risk and revenue. And so again, if you think about risk, again, really the goal, it's not that hey, we triaged, 1,000 alerts. The goal ultimately is, hey, how are you keeping our name out of the paper? And so again, kind of where we started, maybe we can automate and do a lot of the things much quicker what we're doing now, but how are we expanding our capabilities across our environment to reduce that risk? So that includes being able to add in, probably start looking at some of the alerts we already have that we may not be looking at, and then also expanding our coverage. So again, with both of those scenarios, you're going to be getting again a lot of new types of alerts. So again, you're still going to need the people, as we discussed, to provide the context as you're getting new types of alerts and information in your environment. So again, thinking about that risk, covering more environment, and what that will mean to the business ultimately, and how you're able to identify new types of attacks. And again, like I said, hey, we're going to keep our name out of the paper. We still need these people to help us do that. And the second would be around revenue. So again, most businesses you may be are they're going to be growing. So you may be creating new revenue generating projects. You may new acquisitions that are coming up. Again, that represents whole new aspects of the environment, and you don't want your security team to be that bottleneck. So again, you can convey that again with AI, with these new capabilities, as we see these new, again, revenue generating environments, we're able to more quickly prepare these environments so they can become active and the business can get to what business can get to, again, its objective of, however, it's creating money. And the security team is not a blocker for that. So again, you want to have those conversations around risk and revenue, but you have to be able to translate kind of those activities and metrics to what that means to the business.
Well, and did you right? 'Cause I think that revenue metric is very much tied to speed that we've been talking about here today, right? That using AI with the expertise of my teams to let me go much faster in terms of keeping environments secure and responding. So that's going to be a very hard metric I can use. And in all this, and back to the discussion of roles a few minutes ago, right? The nature of work changes such that I can have a team that is the same size it is today, doing much more, handling a much higher capacity of security alerts and minimizing a much larger list of risks than I've been able to do in the
Mhm.
past, simply because of the capacity I gain from the AI tools. All right. Well, hopefully, everybody, this was a helpful discussion for you. Again, this is an ongoing dialogue between you and your management team and your organization, just thinking about how we make the most of AI in the environment, but keep those people in place, keep that expertise in the environment. If you've been interested or intrigued by the things we've shared here today, a couple resources I wanted to point out to you and make available to you. We've got a buyer's guide for AI SOC available on the Simbian website that kind of gives you a structured way of walking through and thinking through what might be useful, what might be important in selecting an AI SOC solution. I shared with you briefly the Cyber Defense Benchmark research that's also available on the Simbian website. And that book, Security for Winners, that has the articles about kind of roles and changes is also present there. Um, uh, People like Patrick on the Symbian team are available to talk to you if you're thinking about how AI might fit into your security operations. Have a call with one of our solutions architects to walk them through, or we're happy to give you a demo and see what this actually looks like in practice. The key here is we want to take the expertise, the knowledge, the capabilities of the team you've got in place, give them more capacity, give them more capability through the power of AI, and ultimately making your organization more secure. So again, thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to have a chance to talk to you again soon. Thanks. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, David.